Morning to you. It's Sam Face, Neil Warnock and Simon Jordan, and we're here right the way through until 1 o'clock this lunchtime. Barcelona have agreed a deal to sign Manchester United forward Marcus Rashford on loan with an option of a permanent purchase. The 27-year-old has taken a €10 million pay cut, while United won't be paying anything towards his salary. Meanwhile, Manchester United have agreed a fee of £65 million with a further £6 million worth of add-ons for Brentford forward Bryan Mbeumo. Let's start, Neil. So many have tried and failed with Manchester United to try and turn them around. What are your thoughts on how Ruben Amorim is going about it?
I just thought he started off... I don't believe you can go into a club and say, I'm going to play this system. I think you go into a club and look at what players you've got, and then think, right, I'll play this system to suit the good players that I've got. But he's gone in and said he's going to play three at the back and all this. And I don't think they've got three centre-halves. I don't think they've had three centre-halves for years. Or full-backs good enough to do what he wanted. So I think, they signed two decent players. But I think they should have started at the other end, if I'm honest, to build a side that's going to come back into it.
Barcelona are restricted on who they can sign, right? So let's be clear, this idea of Marcus Rashford going to Barcelona has only come about because Barcelona were told by La Liga they weren't going to get Nico Williams because they weren't allowed to invest money in transfer fees. Okay. So they can only sign players on loan and then specific salary marks at the moment. But what do you think they saw with Marcus Rashford at Aston Villa that made him sort of the target, a person that they thought could fit into a team that's also got Rafinha, Lewandowski, Ferran Torres, Lamine Yamal, Pedri, Gavi? How is he going to fit in there, and what's he going to do?
They lost, didn't they lose? They've lost the left-sided lad. I can't remember his name now, but they've lost the left-sided lad at Barcelona, and I think they've got him in just to fit in there. I think he'll play up front, mate.
Well, left-sided last season was Rafinha, and Rafinha got 34 goals and 25 assists. Lewandowski played through the middle, and Lamine Yamal's playing on the right-hand side. So
he's a very fortunate boy.
He is a
very fortunate boy. I'm interested to see how the metrics of the analysis you just gave. How's he taking a €10 million pay cut when his central employer is Manchester United? So Man United have a contractual obligation. Whether it's offset by what Barcelona are contributing is what it is. But I don't really see how Man United have gotten out of their central obligation.
Well, is it not because he's agreed to take a pay cut in order to be able to facilitate the move?
Well, that would be interesting if he has indeed, because he's got a contract. So it would be interesting to see how they've...
But he's desperate to go there.
Well, yeah, because he wants to play next season in the World Cup. So I think that was one of the major levers that United had to pull. Everyone was sitting there saying, well, how's this going to work? He holds the cards. He isn't going to go anywhere that he doesn't want to go. The flip side of it was he was going to sit in the middle of nowhere not playing football. So I think they found a solution. I don't know how the mechanisms have been deployed to work out the fact that his salary can be sacrificed. I don't know how he's done a deed of variation on his contract. I'm assuming that he has. Barcelona must have some contractual obligations to buy him. So that must mean in a year's time. I don't just mean airy-fairy ones. I mean real ones. Yeah. Because ultimately, otherwise, United are achieving very little by saving 15
I think he'll have thought it's won the pools, mate, Rashford, because to play for Barcelona, no disrespect to the clubs that he's been involved with, but it's like when you're a kid, you dream of playing at Barcelona. And I think he will have took a drop, whatever it is. I don't know how it works, like Simon knows more than that. But I think he will have said, look, I want to go there. Whatever it costs me, I want to go there. Because to play at a Real Madrid, Barcelona for a player like him, who's really on the fringe of everything, isn't he? He's got to pull his finger out now, hasn't he, really, and show the ability that we all know he's got.
Well, we'll get Alex Crook on the programme in just a second. He's going to sort of go through the mechanics of the deal and the one that's taking Bryan Mbeumo to Brentford. But is there a possibility that by going to the Camp Nou, surrounded by bigger personalities possibly, that he can recapture his best form? How would you get the best out of him?
No, I mean, let's be fair. The better the team is, the better you'll play. It brings you up to it. You look at the players they've got. He's going to get the ball in the right areas where he's good at, where he's potential. The last third, they get a lot of ball in the attacking half because there's so much on top, Barcelona, against the team. So he's got no excuse now. He'll get the ball in the right areas. Whether he can establish himself in the team is another thing when you look at the players that they've got, like you mentioned.
Manchester United spent quite a lot of money. Mbeumo obviously nearly £70 million, and Cunha, though, spent £62 million on. Those deals maybe have add-ons as well, which have cost implications. Can they keep spending more? Because they still need more players, as Neil was saying.
It all depends how they comply with the overall governance. I mean, we had this ridiculous conversation with Jim Radcliffe about 6 months ago where he came out with this absolute bag of nonsense about Man United were going to run out of money. We all know that was rubbish, absolute drivel. Even their own account said it. And actually, quite frankly, he should have been held up by the New York Stock Exchange for being an influential figure influencing securities, because it was not an accurate statement. Clearly, they've got money. It's whether they can comply with PSR. Now, we're seeing clubs find their way through it. We've seen Chelsea find their way through it. We've seen Aston Villa find their way through it. There's no reason to believe that Manchester United won't find their way through it. And all this idea that like Barcelona were going to melt down 2 years ago, everyone in the media was saying Barcelona's in meltdown. They weren't. They were restructuring, re-engineering in the same way that Manchester United are. Going to Rashford, believe me, he'll have a decent season. Believe me, because there's a motivation at the end of it. And then at the end of the season, when he plays his little World Cup and contributes or doesn't contribute, he'll revert to type, because the motivation is there. When he wanted to play in the Euros, the motivation was there. Or in the last World Cup in Qatar, the motivation was there, and then he comes back from the Qatar World Cup and has a shoulder surgery before he goes back to Man United.
So how do you keep the motivation high?
Get good managers to control him, or don't worry about him so much and let him worry about himself.
Because it's not like he's only played under one manager. This is a guy who's played under several managers now. Unai Emery is one of the most recent, obviously.
I didn't think he did bad there at times when he played left on the left-hand side.
And
you gave him the ball in the right place as well. And I think but I think he does need handling. But it's like it's hard, Simon. With the money that they're on. It's hard for the manager now to, especially the old-fashioned managers that used to just manage. Now, players, if you have a shout at them, then they get their agents to talk to you and somebody else and what have you. So it's all going to be down to him now as an individual. He's got to get his head right and show people, because I'm sure he wants to show people. I thought Arsenal might sign him, me. I just thought, why not give it a go up front for Arsenal? Because, I'm not sure about the lad they're trying to sign. Being definitely the number one. I thought it's worth a punt for our, but I suppose they've got to do it now when you look at
Goicoechea.
Yeah,
I'm looking at the goal scoring record. I know the translation from the Portuguese league may be difficult, but look at the goal scoring records.
Well, we're going to get into him in just a second, because Alex Cook got an update on that deal as well. He's also going to explain to us how and why it was reported this weekend that Manchester United are going to save 20 million quid on Rashford's wages. That's coming next here on talkSPORT. Ever been caught on kiss cam?
Me?
Yeah.
No.
I'm glad you're asking him. It wouldn't defer to me.
Alex Crook's certainly been caught on kiss cam. Morning.
Only with you. Morning.
You're right. Right. Go on, explain it to us. How is Rashford taking a £10 million or a €10 million pay cut?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because Manchester United have made it clear that where he ends up this summer, they don't want to be paying towards his wages. It was a similar situation when he went to Aston Villa in January. I think this pay cut is more related to bonuses and loyalty payments in his contract than actually taking a cut of his weekly wage. Either way, it does save Manchester United an estimated £17 million over the course of the season. The fact that Barcelona are covering the remainder of his wages in full, and that probably will allow them now to dip into the transfer market. They need a number 9, obviously, and Bumo deal is going to happen. Cunha already over the door. I watched the friendly against Leeds at the weekend, and the same problems were there, really. They struggled to create chances. They started with young Chidobe up front, put himself around, but I think he's still very raw. Rasmus Højlund came on in the second half. I know it's only a pre-season friendly, and Neil will say don't read too much into what happens in pre-season. But the same problems were there when it came to Højlund. Lack of movement, lack of confidence in front of goal. So I think getting a number 9 is really the next priority.
Liverpool trying to do the same thing as well. They've got a deal in place for Eintracht Frankfurt for the signing of the 23-year-old Hugo Ekitike. A fee worth over €90 million has been quoted, which could potentially reach 95 through add-ons. And he's going to sign a 6-year contract. 15 goals, 33 Bundesliga games, 3 goals in 26 in Ligue 1 for PSG. Does this feel like a sizable transfer fee?
It does. And I know when I was in the studio with Simon last week, he was a bit surprised at how much Ekitike was costing with it's still a fairly limited body of work. He obviously got that big move to Paris Saint-Germain early in his career, and it didn't really work out. I think he only played 1 league game for the French champions, but he has rebuilt his reputation over in Germany. I was told yesterday this deal isn't quite done yet. There's still a bit of haggling to be done in terms of add-ons and the final fee. But I think Liverpool are looking to do what Sir Alex Ferguson used to do really at Manchester United and strengthen from a position of power. And unlike United, actually, this moment in time, if Liverpool do spend big money on a player like Ekitike and it doesn't quite work out, it's not terminal, is it? You look at Darwin Núñez, they spent big on him. He'll leave this summer. I mean, he had a pretty underwhelming Anfield career, but because there are so many good players now in that Liverpool squad, if you take a chance chance in the transfer market and it doesn't come off, it doesn't really have too much of a negative impact on
What do you make of these transfers?
Isn't it a lot of money that for somebody who's he's had a good season or whatever, but there's so many question marks against what he's going to be like. I don't know where the money's going now. 90 million pounds for that. I just think it's too much of a gamble, mate. Or are they using that to try and give him a bit more time for the Newcastle lad?
Well, maybe. Liverpool would have done the math, though, won't they? They would have put all their calculations in. They're very good with their algorithms and data, etc., etc. But what does the normalisation of fees of this side do for the rest of the Premier League?
Well, is it a normalisation or is it just a circumstance where there's a lot of competitive tension around this?
Florian Wirtz going for over 100 million quid, 150 for Isak's been quoted.
Sure. I think the marketplace is where it is, right, for certain football clubs. I look at it and say, like Neil said, I said the other day, and Alex mentioned it a moment ago, about the credentials of this kid. He must have a lot of potential. Liverpool don't tend to buy bad players. I mean, I know the Núñez example is a glaring one where it hasn't worked out the way they wanted it to work out. But I do think it's a lot of money. I mean, you're looking at a player that hasn't achieved that much to be at that sort of level. It can only be because of the competitive tension in the marketplace. The other side of the equation is you have clever agents that get involved in deals and do Erling Haaland at 55 million quid. So you have both ends of the spectrum. But you're in a bull market for players right now.
There's not that many, is there, son? Not many strikers around.
That's the issue, isn't it?
At the moment, that good.
And that's why. And then you look at the Darwin Núñez situation, and actually, Crook, it is worth pointing out there was a different regime that did the hiring there.
Yeah, it is. And it's funny, actually, when you look at the journey that Michael Edwards, since he came back to Liverpool, and Richard Hughes, the sports director, have been on. They took a lot of flack for not signing anybody bar Chiesa last summer, and obviously Mamardashvili, who was sent out on loan. They took flack in January for not adding to their title challenge. They win the league, and then they go massive this summer. And I think some Liverpool fans would like a statue of Richard Hughes and Michael Edwards now erected outside Anfield. So they know what they're doing. And with the Villa signing, and by all accounts, he's been absolutely red hot in training. I think he played the behind closed doors friendly at the weekend and made an impact. I think they're clear favourites for me, despite the fact that Arsenal obviously are trying to do a business. Manchester City have added to their squad and we're in need of a rebuild. I think it's difficult to see beyond Liverpool retaining their title.
Newcastle missed out on several targets so far this summer. Any danger that they're going to miss out on James Trafford as well now? We'll hear from Eddie Howe shortly on Alexander Isak's omission from the squad for the defeat at Celtic. But how much disruption has the departure of sporting director Paul Mitchell created? Because Eddie did say in a quote at the weekend... Morgan Gibbs-White, big story of the summer. He played 45 minutes for Nottingham Forest yesterday. They drew 0-0 against Monaco. How do you view that? Is he being professional playing for the club? But from a club perspective, if he is off, could it be argued that actually he's taking valuable minutes away from players that will be featuring for the club next season? How do you balance that as a manager?
I bet he didn't do many tackles. Really, if I'm honest. I bet it's difficult for it. I mean, he has to play to get himself fit, but. You know, everybody knows what goes on behind the scenes. So.
Do they? What goes on behind the scenes?
Of course they do. Everybody, there's no transfer happens without somebody talking to the player from the club involved. So, that
used to be a big thing, though. Go back 20 years, everyone used to kick off if anyone thought there was tapping up. Look at the Ashley Cole situation. They ended up going to court over it. There was a whole big drama.
Well, that brought us together.
That story?
No,
tapping up.
Not that story. I tapped one of his players up, Marcus Bent, and then he grabbed me when we played him down there and collared me in the room, and we had half an hour. It was good.
It's a strange rule because in no other industry is it expected that you aren't able to speak to someone else if you might want them to come and play for you or work for you. If Barclays Bank wants someone to come from Lloyd's, they don't have to go through some ridiculous protocol of not being able to speak to them. The reality of it is that the release clauses become an even bigger opportunity for agents now. The idea of a release clause was to protect both the club's value and also to perhaps protect players from being locked into contracts they can't get out of, like Erling Haaland engineered a contract which predominantly benefited Erling Haaland because you bought a player for 55 million quid that in an open marketplace would have been 150 million quid, and it engineered the opportunity for the player to get bigger salary and the agent to get paid. Well, the release clause now is creating hostage to fortune because it enables people to be able to create a different marketplace by talking to clubs about what that release clause might mean, or suggesting to a club that's got a release clause, how about the release clause that we've got in here, which is 30 million, 40 million, 50 million, how about we hold out for 60? If I can get you 60, will you split the deal with me and I'll split it with the player? It creates a whole raft of connotations and a whole raft of challenges. This situation with the circumstances around Marinakis getting very uptight about what's gone on there and how it's gone on, well, David Manassi is Morgan Gibbs-White's agent. I would imagine if you've got information being given to Tottenham, there's only three sources it can come from, isn't there, really? It can only come from the club, which Marinakis is suggesting has nothing to do with him and certainly wouldn't allow anyone to be given that information out.
So Marinakis'
the player
is
or the agent.
They know the value of the buyout clause.
Correct.
But so why? So
why would you have one if it wasn't one?
Marinakis is saying because that it shouldn't be publicly.
Yeah,
because you've got that in writing.
Because you're bound by confidentiality.
Oh, right.
There's a confidentiality. Now, because you've got to release a player, doesn't mean you've got. If an offer is at 60 million quid and then someone else comes along and offers you 65 million quid, you're going to want to take the 65 million quid offer, aren't you?
Yes.
There's certain obligations upon you to inform the player. Then the player has a certain obligation to be able to go and agree his personal terms within 5 days. Otherwise, offers rescind.
There's a lot of trust there, though, that public figure is not. Well, that figure's not going to become public because everyone is going to make it public.
But if you're bound by confidentiality, first and foremost, there's three people that will know.
Yeah.
The club, so the club are not going to tell anybody. The agent, who's bound by confidentiality, and the agent will be invariably being paid by the club. But because the club will have paid him.
If the release clause is close to the value of the player or the perceived market value of the player, then you're going to likely going to hit that anyway. So every time someone bids at the release clause, you're going to say, "Oh no, he tapped him up." Maybe they just bid that much money.
The valuation of a player is very subjective, right?
Absolutely.
Who would have valued? So your argument holds no water.
No, of course it does.
Because if you're bidding the valuation of the player and the valuation to you is very different to the valuation of the selling club, it becomes subjective. Now, Jack Grealish had a £100 million release clause. Nobody with much common sense thought that Jack Grealish was worth 100 million quid. You look at Erling Haaland, and you say, well, Erling Haaland in the marketplace was worth a damn sight more than 55 million quid.
So that's just a bad release clause.
No, it's a great release clause for the player.
For the player.
Yeah, but for the football club, it's a bad release clause.
But the football club couldn't get a contract, perhaps, with the player unless that clause was inserted, right? So the reality of it is that the marketplace establishes a certain value and release clauses establish another. And it's designed in its purpose was to protect and insulate the clubs. But the series of unintended consequences, like most things in life, generate a series of opportunities. And now that opportunity is actually benefiting agents. And what Marinakis is getting his knickers in a twist about is if it were the agent, and I'm not suggesting it was David, I'm just throwing it out there. There's only three people who could have known this. So how does it become, in fact, is it known? And could that have to be established?
Well, that's the question.
It might have been David's gardener. You don't know.
If Marinakis is going to go after Spurs or after the situation, I don't quite know where he's going with this, but if he takes a formal investigation, phones will be gotten. People will have to explain to them, to one another, how they've got this information, if they've indeed got this information. But the reality of it is that you've got a player that will inevitably be leaving Nottingham Forest about where he goes.
But it's an obvious
and there's other parts of this deal.
When they put the 60 million value on him, he wasn't worth that.
But he is now.
But he's had a great season. He looks a good player. So he's benefited the club because
how would you value him at this moment in time? When you look at the market, you look at Cunha going for £62.5 million. How much would you value Morgan Gibbs-White?
I think that's a realistic figure.
It's a realistic figure. That was the point I'm making.
It wasn't. That's why
it wasn't.
The club wanted
but it is now.
It wanted the figure in.
But it's a realistic figure based upon certain circumstances. Say, for example, there isn't a release clause, and the player's under contract for another 2 or 3 years. So what's the market value then?
Well, it's the same. It's 60 million.
75, 90.
It's not.
What, do you think he'll play 75 million?
No, but that's the market value.
No, it's not. It's not. So the market value of this kid that's being bought for 90 million quid is based upon what?
On Ekitike?
Yeah.
Potential, I would imagine.
Based upon market value.
But that's a slightly different position.
The fact competitive tension. So if you haven't got a release clause...
There's less number 9s than there are number 10s.
So you've got a player now that's at Nottingham Forest with no release clause, right? And the market says he's worth 30, 40, 56 million quid. He puts a transfer request in or refuses to play or downs tools. All of a sudden, you've got a dynamic which is different to the market value because you're dealing with a whole different circumstances.
Totally agree with you.
So it's not black and white.
My point is, in this circumstance, the out, if you are whoever it is who's bid the money, Tottenham Hotspur, is to say, no, we don't know anything about the clause. It's just the market value of a player of that calibre. And that's a legitimate argument in this case because that is about the market value of this player.
But there is a reason why Nottingham Forest are jumping up and down and shouting foul, isn't there?
Because they jump up and down and shout foul as a matter of course.
I understand that, but if you're going to jump up and down and shout foul and make an allegation and then draw it into a formal conclusion, it means that you have to have something pretty substantive to do it with, otherwise you look like a fool.
Well, maybe.
Right? So I would imagine, despite the fact that Marinakis is very capable of making a lot of noise, and very capable of digging his heels in, I would suspect that they will have some reason for saying it.
Yeah, some evidence or something.
And why that is the case, who knows? But my main point is release clauses are actually a challenge for the marketplace, because they're a huge opportunity for that delightful species that I spend most of my time praising, which are agents that have got far too much power, far too much influence, and getting between the wall and the wallpaper far
But
too
good
often.
agents put a release clause in.
How would you deal with Marinakis if you were working as his manager?
Don't get me involved in that. All right, ask somebody else on that. It's difficult. Hey, listen, I've had a few difficult chairmen. Don't keep looking at Simon. All right. So I mean, I've had a few difficult chairmen, but you have to deal with them.
Yeah.
You have to, try and keep them in the loop of what you're trying to do, and just hope that they support you. That's all. That's all you can do with it. And I know he's erratic at times, but he's done ever so well for the club.
He's done a fantastic job for the club.
And I love Nunes. We've had Barneys over the years, me and Nunes, but I think he's super as well.
Well, he's handled himself really well, hasn't he? I mean, he's dealt with the situation brilliantly. We're interested to see what sort of season they've had. They have next season. They've already spent some money, but they want to keep hold of Morgan Gibbs-White. That saga still developing. But talkSPORT understands that Ashley Young is set to join Ipswich Town. And Watford were keen to re-sign him and maybe even make him captain, but ultimately his wage demands did not fit their structure. But he is going to sign for Ipswich Town. Are you surprised at 40 years of age that Ashley Young is still going strong and set to play a season in the Championship?
I think to be fair, I think he's got better. He's been like a good bottle of wine, Ashley. I think he's got better defensively as he's got older. And I think when Kieran looks at his squad, he's losing Semi Morsi and one or two experienced lads. I think he'll need something like that. And even if he's not playing every game, I think he needs somebody like that in the dressing room. He's been a great pro.
Yeah, just a quick word on that, because Sam Morsi, the captain, has completed his move to Kuwait, 2-year contract. So he is off, and he has been replaced by Ashley Young, who may well end up taking up a leadership role there as well. Right, let's talk a little bit about Thomas Frank, because he's taken up a new leadership role this summer. He's the new head coach at Tottenham Hotspur. They beat Reading 2-0 at the Select Car Leasing Stadium on Saturday, thanks to goals from Will Lancashire and Luka Vuskovic. Ahead of the game, the new Spurs boss spoke about the jeopardy surrounding taking the job.
I like to challenge myself. I've been that privileged. I've never been sacked before, so that's one of the reasons why I took the job. So I could get a little bit more risk into my daily life. I'm, coming to a big club. There's pressures. There's, we need to perform because it is we. It's me. It's the staff. It's the players. It's everyone, and we need to do that together. I like the ambitions, and I'm everything I do. Every decision I made so far, everything is for the long term. It's not about surviving one game or 1 year or 18 months or what is the average. No, it's for the long run.
Do you know what? I've seen different interpretations of this press conference. So I watched the whole thing, and I know that some people say he looks quite tense or he doesn't look particularly comfortable. I got the complete opposite view, and I thought that the joke that he made towards the end was about sort of, almost making light of the fact that so many of his predecessors had been on the chopping board. How did you view it?
Well, I think he just knows it's a challenge, isn't it? And I think it's a good time to come in. Because he'll get the back lads defensively. He'll get them more organised and harder to beat, and hope that the players can still create things. But he'll not have worked. Having been at Brentford, he'll not have worked with Daniel Levy before. And trust me, it's a lot harder. When you look at me looking at Simon now, are you with me? I mean, he was one of my chairmen, and you know how difficult it is on this programme, don't you, to look after him? So you can. I'm telling you, Daniel.
I'm only here because I'm the only one who volunteers.
Daniel Levy is not the easiest of guys to. So I think before the season starts, managers are relaxed at your press conferences, and the grass is green, and you've never lost a game, and life's rosy. But during the season, there'll be times where you look at his press conferences and it'll be entirely different.
What do you make of the joke? Was it a show of tension, or was it sort of actually trying to lighten the mood a little bit?
Sometimes you say something to lighten the subject doesn't mean the subject's taken lightly. The angle of attack was that you're going into a different environment. The questions were being loaded and expected. Do you expect the challenges that comes with working for Daniel Levy? He's not playing Daniel Levy on a Saturday afternoon. He's playing other teams. And if he produces a side that wins, then he'll have no problems with his owner. If he produces a team that has a style about it, he'll have no problem with the fans. If you win with style, then you'll have something that you can hang on to. It's about what Spurs are going to become under Thomas Frank, how he adapts to a set of circumstances that are completely alien to where he's been. He came out of Brentford. He was part of a succession programme into Brentford and built into the infrastructure of it. Tottenham are a whole different set of animals. They've got expectation. They've got a huge football club with reputation attached to it. They've got a stadium of fans that expect to be entertained. And they've got a group of players that last year I don't think covered themselves in glory, despite the fact they won the Europa League in the battle of who could be the worst team in the Premier League to win a European competition.
They have signed Mohamed Kudus, which might upgrade their attacking options. Apart from his qualities, Frank actually also praised the board for getting him in early in pre-season during that press conference. How important is that for a manager?
I think it's great to have your players in, early doors where you can probably go away and you can mix more with the team, not just on the field but off it as well. Because the dressing room gets you through the winter months when things aren't going so well. So I just think it's good. And it's nice to see him dipping his hand in his pocket, really, and signing these players. I think he would have liked Mbon, the lad who's gone to
Burma.
I think he would have liked him because he knows him, and it's great to have somebody in the dressing room that you've worked with for years. But they're not bad players that they've signed, so it's, promises well. I'm looking on with interest at that one, because of what happened to Ange in that respect. But he's a solid appointment, and they were brave, Brentford, when they gave him the job in the first place, and again now they've given Keith Andrews.
Well, I was going to ask you about that, because that bravery is extended to their former set piece coach Keith Andrews, or experienced player, and actually experienced coach as well, and he's done all of his licenses and he's been through different clubs learning his trade. Are you surprised that a man who's never managed in the Premier League before, in fact never had a frontline job before as a manager, can get a role as a head coach in the Premier League?
Absolutely, yeah, because I'm astonished, if I'm honest, at a level that we're talking about. But they went from within last time, so they think that they're going to keep all the staff in place, I would imagine. And Keith was a good player, steady player, and a nice lad. So he'll have to learn quickly, because, like I say, at this time of the year, everything's rosy. But he's got a lot to live up to with what they did last year. Can he keep them up there? I mean, they've got a decent squad now. They have a decent team. So
lost their captain, haven't they?
Yeah,
lost their captain to Arsenal.
Lost Norgard, lost Burma. Yeah. Vissa's been linked with moves away as well.
I mean, he'll have to build, and it's not easy when you come in as a manager like Keith, who's never managed before, to get the money that they want to sign better players or players as good as what's just gone.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, he won't be doing that though, will he? I mean, the fact is, if it was anybody other than Matthew Benham or Tony Bloom employing a 31-year-old manager from Germany, or Matthew Benham employing this guy, you'd say, can't see the thinking behind that. There's a lot of risk. I mean, Martin O'Neill will sit in the studio because of the vitriol he's got towards Keith Andrews, who Keith Andrews endlessly criticised him when he was Republic of Ireland manager, and say
about set pieces. Actually,
it's some reality for you getting the big job. Yeah. I mean, look, the more fascinating job for me is the one that Neil was alluding to. I would love to know what the brief is for Thomas Frank, because Daniel has gotten rid of Postecoglou. I think deservedly so for Ange, because I think that you cannot go through a season where they were so chaotic and so poor in the Premier League and look at it and go, well, you've shown me. If someone shows you themselves, believe them. He showed a certain style of management that wasn't going to get Tottenham very far. They won a Europa League in a competition that they should have won because it was a poor Europa League, and in the final they played a very poor Man United. So Tottenham got the monkey off their back. But I think they were right to get rid of Ange Postecoglou. But the thing for me is, what has Thomas Frank been told he's got to do? What is the standard that he's going to be judged by? That's the thing that I'm really interested to ascertain. We're not going to know it because he's never going to say it. But it must be top four.
Well, one of the things, I was just looking at the statement that they released when they sacked Ange Postecoglou, because I think there was an indication in there of what they wanted. He said that this is the board statement of why they decided to sack him. It was following a positive start. We recorded 78 points from our last 66 Premier League games. That's our worst ever Premier League finish. At times there were extenuating circumstances, blah, blah, blah. Whilst winning the Europa League this season ranks as one of the club's greatest moments, we cannot base our decision on emotions aligned to this triumph. It is crucial that we are able to compete on multiple fronts and believe a change of approach will give us the strongest chance for the coming season and beyond. This has been one of the toughest decisions we have to know, not one we've made lightly. So they obviously want to be able to compete on not just for the Europa League and then say halfway through we're allowed to sack off the Premier League in order to do it. We might come back to that in the next few minutes. You're listening to talkSPORT. It is White and Jordan with Sam at the face, Simon Jordan and Neil Warnock today with Selco Builders Warehouse. It's where the trade go. We've got a few changes to the laws that have been proposed. Now, I wanted to get your thoughts on this one. We talked about this on Friday, and I still can't work out the benefit of this. But the prospective law change from not this season that's coming, the one after that, will be that there will be no more penalty rebounds allowed. Once the penalty is taken, play ends. No follow-ups are allowed. Goal or miss, that's it. Why would you do that?
That'll do me. I'm happy with that.
Oh, yeah? Why?
Yeah, I am. Why not? It'll get on with it straight away if they don't score.
But do you remember like the great Troy Deeney goal where, the penalty at one end and then you run at the other end and
I remember
score,
that,
and score. That will now be a thing of the past. That will never happen again. No. Those moments where the keeper makes a great save and then you counter-attack.
Is there any text behind why they think it's a good thing to do?
No.
The Troy Deeney is something that you can remember because it's happened so infrequently. So the fact that has happened once doesn't necessarily mean it should be preserved and set in stone.
But what about the chance that you could, if you miss the penalty or the goalkeeper makes a great save or whatever, you get the chance to put it in again?
But then again, a penalty should be, in my view, it should be a one-hit deal. You get your chance to have a penalty, you get a free shot on goal, and it either gets saved or you score.
I agree, Sam.
Really?
Yeah. I just think that's a good thing, mate.
Is that because you've been at clubs that concede a lot of penalties here?
No. It's what?
Is it because you've conceded a lot of penalties?
No, I suppose I've conceded more than I've gained. But no, I just think like Simon just said, you've got one go at it.
Right, so you think it's an unfair advantage if you have two goals?
If the goalie saves, it's great, well done.
That should be the end of it.
But they should be more vigilant about goalie moving his feet. If the goalie moved his feet,
we almost had a disaster on Saturday night about that because the German goalkeeper Ann-Katrin Berger makes a save to win the shootout, and they all celebrate. They all run onto the pitch, and I'm wrapping up the game, and I'm looking over, and the referee's doing this VAR in the ear to check see if she's come off the line, and I'm thinking she's going to blow a whistle and disallow the goal. We're going to have to go again here. She didn't, thankfully, because it would have ruined. I don't know how to get everyone off the pitch, but. That obviously is something that they're doing with the semi-automated.
Imagine if that happened.
Oh my God!
And they're all celebrating. I mean, that's hard to get back into the groove again.
Well, we had it in the Madrid derby in the Champions League last 16 game where nobody knew what had happened. They chalked off a penalty because Julian Alvarez had double tapped it before it had gone in the top corner. Yeah. And they'd called the penalty off. They didn't get to retake it again. That was it. It was just it was an X on the sheet. But no one in the stadium knew that until it came up on the scoreboard. So the goal had been disallowed, and only the Real Madrid players actually knew anything about it. It was shocking. That was weird. Other law changes: VAR to check second yellow cards, could intervene on yellows that lead to a red, which is currently not allowed, and may check corners if an incorrect decision has been made that led to a goal. What do you think?
So will we be getting IT to actually authorise the tossing of the coin before the start of the game? It's bloody ridiculous, isn't it?
Too much for you?
Yeah, because it's corners and that. Oh, my goodness me. Why don't we go back to just having a go at the referees like I used to enjoy, making a mistake, VAR and all that lot. By all means, goal line technology, but I'm not a big fan of things. Keep coming and coming and coming. Corner kicks and things like that. What are they going to do then, the lines people?
Well, it's interesting you say that because the other law changes this year are the things like double touches on penalties, which we were talking about with Julian Alvarez. Now that actually it'll be retaken. It won't just be ruled out now. I think that's good. Yeah. Because a lot of that happens when it's accidental. It's a slip.
Do you accept the principle that it's very difficult to referee a football match, given the scrutiny that referees now put under, given the fact that the broadcasters have this 360-degree access, that means that decisions, whether you see them at the time or you see them retrospectively, are constantly being criticised by you managers. Yeah. So do you think it's technology that is not being deployed properly that needs to be improved, or it's technology full stop that you don't want? because you weren't happy with referees.
No.
And you weren't happy with the mistakes they made.
No.
And you and your colleagues constantly were going on and on about it. So they brought in the technology to help referees to give you a greater outcome than the one you were before. So is it the technology you don't like, or is it the current deployment of it?
I just don't think we're good enough to do the technology. I don't think VAR people are good enough. I think it's just the same like referees that aren't good enough in the Premier League doing this VAR who aren't good enough.
Well, then that leads itself to the automated process where it takes out human error. So the offside rule, once upon a time you have to evaluate what is the purpose of an offside rule, why was it invented in the first place, and how does it adapt to the modern game? But ultimately, if you automate things, you take away human error.
Yeah.
Well, do you? You take away a human error, yeah, but do you take away error? And after watching Wimbledon, I'm not 100% sure.
I'm just saying that, I'm going to just say.
Well, it depends what you've been led to believe. If the thing that people keep judging VAR by is that there was 100% clear-up rates.
No, it can never be for that.
But Sam, can you remember when you scored a goal? And you run down the touchline and thump the air, jump the air, come back, give your assistant a kiss and all that. And now, what do you do now?
You know, we're all sitting there screaming away saying that's a goal, that's the end of the game or whatever. And then you actually think, oh, hold on a second, it might not be. I'll check to see if it's VAR. And it does take that out. But the game wanted it. The reason that it was brought in.
I wanted it because I got done at Cardiff with a goal offside. Yeah. At Cardiff, which I thought got us relegated.
You were asking for it at the time.
Absolutely. If Ed Smart, I remember his name now, the linesman, it's engraved in my brain. If he couldn't see you were offside, so I wanted VAR for that reason. But
you changed your mind now.
Well, I think for the goal, celebrating a goal and that have you, I didn't realise you'd lose as much enjoyment as we do. And I think you should just say the offside rule is if it's going to be done black and white straight away, then fair enough. But that's all. I don't think they should bring other things in, like corner kicks and things like that. No,
the other problem is the law book. When you did your referee exams, how thick was it?
It was quite thick, but the one thing that didn't say in the law book when I started refereeing, when I watched my dad, I went to a game last week, Sheffield Club versus Retford at Retford, and I remember as a young boy going to watch my dad referee at Retford Town, right? And I remember him saying, talking to players and I'm looking at Keith Hackett when he refereed, and what they're told to do now is by the laws of the game they have to do all the laws, but they forget about man management. There's nothing wrong with talking to players, but it's almost like they're not allowed to now unless they get a mark taken off the flaming numbers, whatever they call. They've got to get back to talking.
Well, they can talk to the captains now, which is good. It's all about captain's law, so if you want to have a chat with the referee, you better be the captain next season.